Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of a supernatural fantasy and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about SurrealEstate Season 3, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, I was curious to see where this episode's case involving this dad Mitch and his son Jalen, and I was so curious to see how that was going to play out. Obviously, you could tell immediately it wasn't going to be like this dad is weird. You're like, well, something's going on with the son, and you just weren't quite sure. Him later on speaking was Aramaic, and just kind of like you're like, oh, there's definitely like some like poltergeist type of stuff happening. I thought it was interesting too, because like the dad wanted to immediately sell the house, and even Susan like, wait, you want me to take the first offer? Even Luke was like, yeah, that's weird. It's like, yeah, who does that? So there, and obviously the bars on the windows, the heavy locks, and on the door, to the point not only is it locked, they even got the wood planks there to also make it hard to. It's just. So you knew something was up, but like I said, it immediately kind of gives you a poltergeist vibe. But I thought, like, is it related to the property? You think getting away from there as soon as possible will like help with that? And I guess maybe that was part of Mitch's thinking, was maybe like, I mean, there's obviously a lot tied to the place, but I think also like, well, you've been here too long, people might start asking questions, so you have to move. Because he says later on, Jalen's circumstances have only turned into what they like. The whole, obviously we find out later on, like, Mitch lost his wife in an accident. Then his son ends up getting, was it like leukemia or something like that? And a form of leukemia, and it was incurable. And it's just like, it's that thing of like, you're a parent. What are you supposed to do? You want to do what's best for your child. You've also been through so much pain where you're losing people to things you can't control, like, oh, like my wife died in an accident, now my son is like, you're doing whatever you can, like you're desperate. And so you went to a guy that was supposed to give your child immortality, but instead gave you a demon, and that demon did in fact help. It kept your son healthy, the cancer went away, but the problem is 6 months ago it started activating in its regard, and it's gotten more and more and more frequent as time is going on. So it is that sad situation of, yeah, you kind of did something messed up, and he blames himself, but at the end of the day, you were trying to do what was best for your son. You were also so scared about losing someone else that you love, So, and to the point, like, Jalen wants to remove the demon. I mean, Susan and Luke are suggesting, oh, we can remove the demon, but the dad's like, no, we're not going to go down that route, because if we do, like, there's no guarantee that the cancer won't come back. And I think that probably is a strong possibility, because it's like, it kind of reminds me of like the Vampire Diaries and the TV show Angel, which was a spinoff of Buffy, kind of dealt with that, where it's like, there was a character that was a vampire but had cancer before they became a vampire. The moment they were no longer a vampire, they got the cancer came back. Same thing with like the Vampire Diaries. When you are like, once the magic is removed from, because vampirism and that was magic, the moment it was removed at one point in the story, I think it was the whole Traveler storyline. Basically, everyone ended up dying the way that they died. So like, oh, you got shot before turning into a vampire, that you will magically be dying of that bullet wound again. It kind of feels like it would be that thing of the demon didn't completely cure it. It is just a situation of, it will most likely just be a reprieve, and now like the cancer will, if that, come back. But that's the whole point, for Jalen, is I want to live my life, because he's had to stay away from friends. I mean, the whole thing, he wanted to like go hang out with his friends, have a sleepover. It's like, no, we can't risk that. So he's been around friends, but like hanging out overnight, like a part of your life, you're always going to have to be worried and concerned about, like, because yes, it only happens at night, but eventually it might get so bad it might activate over the day. And it's like, how do you tell people what's going on without drawing too much attention to it? So once again, just doing everything you can as a father to protect your son, but that's no way to live. And it's like, if I have to live like that just to keep going, especially with this situation that's getting worse and worse, he's like, I want to be in love. I want to get married. And he's like, and enjoy my life for whatever amount of time it's left. And it's like, it's like he wants his son to be happy. So it's like, Mitch ends up conceding to that, because the way August explains it, it's like, this thing is so deep rooted in him because it grew with him. It's, as he's hitting puberty, so is the demon, and the demon's getting stronger and stronger. That's why it's acting out. And it's really sad too, because he's like, because I think Mitch said specifically, like, like he does like harm himself because it's basically the demon trying to rip its way out of him. But he says like the moment Jalen comes back, the wounds go away. But the way he made it sound and the way it looks does seem like the wounds do immediately come back the moment the demon resurfaces. So that's why I kind of feel like there is probably implications too. Like I think that is kind of like subtly saying like the cancer will most likely come back now that the demon's gone. Maybe I don't know, but I feel like you could view it that way. I mean, I guess arguably the argument could be like, well, the opposite would technically be true, considering like when the demon shows up is when the wounds appear, but that's it trying to rip its way to the surface, tearing itself away from Jalen. So, but either way, I do enjoy like the twofold aspects of the situation. Of one, they've got the new Zoe, an intern named Audrey, who's really good at what she does. Obviously, she's completely unaware of things. I thought it was kind of messed up that Susan was like, "Yeah, I have my like color coordinated system that you need to get adjusted to," and it's like, "Oh." I thought when she was like, "Don't worry, I'll figure it out in about a day or something," and Luke was like, "Oh, Audrey." Oh, poor Audrey. But it's like, no, you'll definitely take more time. But it did seem like, at first I was like, oh, maybe she will get it down pat. Because at first I was almost thinking like, there's no way Susan's sabotaging her in a regard. Because it's like, oh, because you don't. But it's like, no, they've been through multiple replacements for Zoe on, so it's like, you want people who stick around. And Audrey wants to kind of be a part of everything. They're like, do we normally dig into people this much? It's like, don't worry about it. And Audrey eventually wanted to go on the case with them because, like, and even Susan's like, Luke, everyone's basically got to pop their cherry at some point in time with this whole situation of what it means to work here. They gotta learn the truth about the world at some point in time. And sadly, Audrey's not sticking around. I was hoping and wondering would she, but it's like no. The moment she saw Jalen transformed, she like passed out immediately. So it's like yeah, and she ends up saying like yeah, I'm gonna move on. So I wonder is that just gonna be the gag of this season that like they're constantly going to be recycling through like Zoe's. It's always going to be someone every new episode. It's not the same, but it almost reminds me that it's not a gag. It's just an element of the show. If you ever seen the show Misfits, a person who is basically their, their parole officer in a lot of ways, basically they get a new one like every season, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen Misfits in a while, but I want to say like it was like every season they got a new one because like the previous one, spoilers, got murdered. So I almost feel like it's going to be kind of like, not, well, God forbid if they end up losing someone during the job. It's like, how do you compensate? How do you cover for that? But it's most likely people are going to freak out and quit. Who knows? Maybe they will find a solidified person to stick around. So, and it's like, do you jump them into the deep end? Like, I'm so curious to see who's going to be that person because it doesn't seem like Zoe is coming back. Especially after what she said last episode. It could always change, but it seems like, yeah. Once again, they don't technically have a fill-in for Phil either, and they don't have an August. That's why they're going to August. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes. But either way, getting back to the episode, especially things got complicated. I thought things were going to go from bad to worse, which they kind of did when Jalen's friend's dad showed up. And it's like, well, because they kept being like, well, you haven't attacked him. It's like, right, they're completely unaware that when Jalen got out this last time, he ended up attacking his friend. I'm like, and no one's the wiser about it until the dad shows up being like, yo, my son was attacked, your son did it. And it's like, well, it's coming at the worst possible time because Mitch is trying to do everything he can to keep Jalen awake because the longer he's awake, the less likely he is to like go demon mode. But he's exhausted and like passing out and until he transforms. So I was kind of worried that this story was going to have like a super sad ending where Jalen survives, but his dad didn't because Augie took a machine from Astra and ended up modifying it. It's basically like a demon exercising defibrillator. And it's like, yeah, burn the demon up from the inside, but if anyone comes in close contact, it could kill them. But luckily it didn't, even though Mitch was super close. But it's like, it's the only way he could calm his son down. It's like, I'm here with you. And luckily it turned out okay, which I was kind of scared. Like I said, Jalen would survive, but his dad wouldn't. I was like, oh, that would suck. He already lost his mom, and now he's got to lose his dad, and he's going to blame himself. It's like, but even though his dad was blaming himself for being like, I'm the one that put this demon in you in the first place because I was so scared to lose you and let you go. So, but it seems like through it all, everything's okay. Even that friend of Jalen's was able to calm him down. So I'd assume they're not selling the house. I think they are staying because this is kind of like Jalen's found a good friend, and so it's like, right, we're sticking around now. Like I said, they just needed to get away because of everything that was going on. So like there was luckily everything had a beautiful resolution to it. Um, Staying on the August side of things, because Rochelle has been in a position where she's now going to be executive director. It's like, right, can't have any skeletons in the closet. You moonlighting for Luke with stuff. It's like, because I didn't know what the issue was because he was sneaking around, and I was like, what's the problem with that? It's like, well, because and it makes sense when Rochelle brings it up this episode. It's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. You have a non-complete cause. You are basically using Astra's like most likely patented stuff and technology and their tools and research to help a different company. It's like, it's not like they're competing companies, but it's still a thing of you can't use your tech to help some other company. What you do for us is exclusive for us, and you using it for someone else, it's a big no-no. And Rochelle kind of let it out of that slide until now. It's like, okay, I know you've been moonlighting with Luke, but you need to cut that out because this is what I've been aiming for so long. It's like, don't worry, babe, I got you. I would never want to jeopardize that, which I was like, you're going to end up jeopardizing by the end of the episode, and he ultimately does. It doesn't play out the way you think it would necessarily, but I was just like, I thought he was going to get caught, especially when he snuck that stuff out of the building, but no, he didn't get caught. In fact, he could have snuck it back in with no issues, but I was just like, yeah, but August being the good guy that he is, especially because he does care about Rochelle, he ultimately ends up telling her the truth. I thought August was going to just quit. He was like, I did this. I'm sorry. It's best for you if I quit. And I thought Rochelle was going to be like, no, I understand why you did what you have to do. Don't quit. But she ends up being like, no, you're fired. Because he was like, but we're going to be good, right? I'm going to put it back and no one's going to be the wiser. And she's like, was it worth this? Like, yeah, we saved a kid's life. So I think it was. But for her, it's like, no, you're fired. And it's like, it's that hard thing of working with the person you're in a relationship with. Now, this also jeopardizes their relationship. It isn't just like a business partnership of like, yeah, we work at the same company. It's like you betrayed my trust. You made a promise to me and you broke it. And now like that, not just company wise, that complicates things us as a couple too. So we'll see the aftermath of that. But you also, I think on some level, you could almost wonder, well, did August like sabotage this? Because it's like, you didn't try that hard. You literally made that promise to her this episode. You made the point to Luke, and Luke's like, oh, I understand, and then it's like, well, no, you literally the next day kind of broke that promise. But it's like, he made it perfectly clear he wasn't happy in episode 1. These past 3 years hasn't been like the happiest for him working at Astra, but it's like, you're sticking around out of obligation. He even said like, oh, he's sticking around because when he was a young, impatient, God, what was the word I'm looking for? Not impatient. Impatient isn't the word I'm looking for, but it'd almost be a synonym to it. I can't, it's a very specific word they used last episode, but either way, which Rochelle loved that aspect about him, but he kind of saw it as a weakness. And so that's the only reason why he's staying, because he's like, well, I broke that promise beforehand, but now I'm going to stick it out. But it's like, you don't enjoy being here. The fact is, being with Susan and Luke again, you were immediately like, no, I have to go with you because they don't fully know how to work the tech. But he also was making an excuse of, no, I got to see this through because, the tech's finicky. It's like, because at the end of the day, like, neither Luke nor Susan were the ones that used the device. It was ultimately Mitch. But to be fair, it's like August was there to adjust stuff, so everything was kind of already ready at the time. But still, like, yeah, August was making excuse, and he feels a little downtrodden, I think a little brokenhearted about the situation, but I don't think he's going to be as broken up about it. Yes, it's going to be suck because of the whole him and Rochelle of it all, but he's not going to be that heartbroken about leaving like the company because what they wanted didn't align with what he wanted didn't align with, so I guess this is kind of a telltale sign of him coming back to the company, but I don't know. We'll see how that plays out, because it's like, right, you're fired and you gotta pack your stuff up. I'm curious to see how people on the inside who did not like August, how they feel about this. Will Rochelle potentially take that back next episode? Probably not. But but it's still the thing of like, yeah, you made a promise to me and you backtracked on it, and this is something that was very important to me. You couldn't, like, you could have helped a different way without stealing our tech to do it. So it's understandable, but it's still just kind of like a will Rochelle change your mind? It's going to be an interesting element to see. Aside from that, we have our continuation with Tyler, or as we learn his name this episode, Elvis, the elephant, who is bringing Luke over because obviously the property that Tyler owns, Luke's like, oh my god, that's going to be like the big well of thing. So I know like this is a really big deal, that property. And ultimately Luke gets there, and it's interesting because Elvis is like poking at him, being like, oh yeah, tell me more about you, yourself. Got any family? Oh, why did you get into the realtor business? He's like, well, to be fair, I'm asking myself that a lot lately. That is the irony, that if like August and some of the others end up coming back, despite Luke being questioning himself, his decision to be here and stuff, and his place and what he wants out of his life and where he wants to continue, like how long does he want to continue down this path, or does he want something different for his life? It'd be ironic that other people went off and did other stuff in that 3 years, and then they all, maybe not all of them, but at least August is potentially coming back. Like I said, we'll see how that shakes up and plays out, but yeah, like this Elvis is really like pissed at Luke, because I thought his beef was just with Luke's dad, but it's like, no, like I looking at when they recap the stuff from episode 1, I was like, no, that makes none. It definitely seems like he got beef with Luke too, because he says later on it wasn't just Carl that put him in the box and threw him in the water; it was also Luke. So it was a Roman family effort. So I thought it was interesting too, because he had that whole bit where he was basically that guy who worked was from the church, and it's like, oh, we just want to invite you. He's like, I will give you $100,000 to turn your back on the church. And the guy was kind of like, no. I thought he would, but I was like, are you going to come back later? And lo and behold, he does. But the guy doesn't give him the money because he was like, this is a limited time offer. But I'm like, what is your deal, Elvis, for you to be like so anti-church and stuff like that? I don't know. That's why I'm like, what are you? Are you a demon or what? Are you like? Are we going down the like? Happy, if you've ever seen that show, another sci-fi show, the whole like imaginary friend route, that like maybe you're an imaginary friend that was real, or became real and got banished because you were a danger to Luke or whatever. And it's understandable. It's like he was basically stuck inside that bear. I wonder, is that his original form and he grew a consciousness or something like that? But he was basically in the water for 35 years. But my point is, like, did they seal him in the bear? Not the bear, it's an elephant, because he is Elvis the elephant. So I think that is what he is. Like somehow, like some entity like manifested itself in that way, or for whatever, like I said, an imaginary friend that kind of came to life and grew a conscience and became its own entity and lived in being. But yeah, you basically stuck in there in a tomb, being kind of conscious and awake for like 35 years. Understandable why you'd be pissed and want some revenge. And he's making this whole declaration to Carl later on when he's talking about, oh, like I want to get inside of Luke's body and basically rot it. And it's like, oh, your son is going to be jealous of you being able to just kind of rot in this grassy knoll of a cemetery. Because he's like, I was upset when I saw your obituary because I wanted to be the one to put you in the ground. But lo and behold, you had to die before I came back. I'm also curious, like going back to the church stuff, I wonder, did the church have anything to do with that? Like, reason why he has such animosity towards them. Kind of makes me wonder, will they find their fill replacement? Will it also be someone from the church too? Like, we get a former church person filling that void, or will it just be someone that's knowledgeable? Will you get someone who's anti-church? Well, to be fair, Phil was he was a church guy that became an anti-church guy, filling in for like that knowledge of that world, and ironically enough back with the church. But I'm wondering now if it's going to be a situation of, will they get someone who was never part of the church who's anti-church? I don't know. Like I said, who knows if we'll get someone to fill those voids, because we're just mainly focusing on just the rotating door of people being Zoe's, because like they've only talked about there being like 30 some replacements for Zoe. There hasn't been a conversation of how many. We haven't found a replacement for Phil, but it hasn't been like a lengthy conversation like that, because maybe they've never even gotten to the process of what they had with the Zoe replacements. That at least they were here and they tried out and just didn't work out, versus like no one's even like actually been on site for a job for the Phil thing yet, because they haven't just been able to vet anyone in that regard. I don't know. A lot of questions. I'm interested to see where all of this ends up taking us as we continue with this whole Elvis situation. Hopefully finding out what that ends up being. I do think it's beautifully ironic, where it's like, oh, with everything kind of falling apart, Susan's kind of upset that Audrey isn't sticking around. It's like, really liked her, but Luke's like, the fact that matters, we just sold this big house. It's all going to come up, like good things are coming, not knowing like, nah, there's a massive threat you won't see coming bubbling beneath the surface. To be fair, it's like the same thing with Susan's house last season. That was bubbling and no one knew that was happening. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But yeah, I've rambled on enough. That's really all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.